It's just a cigarette, and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me? And you know it makes me sad.
It's just a cigarette, like you always used to do.
I was different then, I don't need them to be cool.
Go Ask Alice is a realistic fictional novel written by Beatrice Sparks in 1971 about a girl named Alice who is 15 and becomes addicted to drugs. Please note this video may contain triggering topics such as sexual abuse, self-harm, drug abuse, and later suggested suicide. Though this book is now half a century old, it never fails to expose a very dark and dangerous side of our society that most people fail to see. Though it's tragic, over 13 million teenagers have become addicted to drugs, specifically illegal substances, since 2010. I'll do my best not to spoil anything, but I'll let you know near the end of the video before I reveal the ending of the real book, the real story. There's as well a film based on the book Go Ask Alice starring Jamie Smith Jackson, and I'll be including some clips from the original movie, so yeah. Yesterday I bought this diary because I thought at last I'd have something wonderful and worthwhile to say. We immediately get a taste of Alice's personality. She's optimistic and cheerful, and she meets a boy named Roger who she's discouraged by because he lets her down. But she ends up making friends with a girl named Beth, and they become really close throughout the school year, and that's pretty much all that we know about that year, in 1968. Today I received the news Beth is going to summer camp for 6 weeks. So that means that she's left to make new friends to hang out with over the summer, which is going to be pretty hard news for Alice. Beth and I only have 2 more days together. Our parting is almost like looking forward to death. It seems I have known her forever and she understands me. July 7th, Alice runs into a girl named Jill at the department store. They haven't seen each other in a while, but they used to be close friends. And they start up a conversation, and Jill ends up inviting Alice to go hang out with her at a party. Alice is really excited and eager to go to this party at Jill's and see if she can blend in well with the crowd. And at the party they have a game, and at that game there is only one drink and it's spiked with LSD. Alice soon realizes while she's drinking that she is the one that has the LSD. My body was tense at every muscle, and a feeling of weird apprehension swept over me, strangled me, suffocated me. And whole trains of thoughts started to appear between each word. I was losing it. I was slipping out of my grasp. July 20th, Alice goes on a date with a guy named Bill who she met at Jill's party. He introduces her to speed, and she describes it as scary at first because she has to inject it in her arm, but later the feeling is very relaxing and euphoric. For 2 days, I've been trying to convince myself that LSD makes me a dope addict and all the other low-class, unclean, despicable things. July 23rd, Alice updates us that her grandpa suffered a heart attack, so she has to decline one of Jill's next parties. But then later, on August 3rd, she still goes to a party and smokes and does even more drugs than she did, even though she promised us that she would stop after she did LSD that one time. August 6th, Alex updates us and says that she lost her virginity with Bill. She thought it would be with Roger, her first boyfriend, but he can't satisfy her the way Bill does. The next few days, Alice ignores all of Roger's phone calls. She's very shameful. She can't stop thinking about drugs. And then she decides to call her mom and ask if she can go home. But instead, her mom schedules her an appointment to see the doctor, who prescribes her sleeping pills. Roger called 4 times today, but I refused to talk. Oh, how did I end up in such a mess? Imagine losing your virginity 4 days before seeing Roger again. Alice has been very worried that she was pregnant from the time that she had sex with Bill. So eventually, on August 26th, she finds out that her period started, so she's not pregnant. So she's very relieved about that. I was never so happy for anything in my life. Now I can throw away my sleeping pills and tranquilizers. I can be me again. September 6th, Beth comes back from camp, and Alice is really excited to see her again, but when they hang out, Alice soon realizes that they have a lot less in common now. Beth found a Jewish boy, and honestly, Alice is pretty jealous because Roger lives far away, while Beth can hang out with her boyfriend whenever she wants to. And so, because of that, Alice wanders down to a boutique downtown and meets a girl named Chris, who lets her buy some moccasins and a leather vest with fringes at the end, and she straightens her hair, but her parents really hate it because she looks like a hippie. So Alice went back down again to visit Chris, her new friend, who gives her some candy hearts. And I did some research on my own to find out what these candy hearts actually are, and turns out I think they might be ecstasy. Ecstasy was a drug that they used to get high back in the 60s, and kids would pass things around, and she told her to take a candy heart and listen to some groovy music, and it will help all her problems go away. At this point, by October 19th, Alice decides to run away with Chris. They pack their bags and they wake up really early to catch a train to San Francisco, California. She ends up telling on Ted and Richie for selling drugs as more likely an act of revenge, but part of me wonders if she actually did it because she wants to protect the kids from ending up just like her. Being a high school dropout, but I dare not even write my transcripts. Richie might follow them. I'm leaving you a note, beloved family, but it can never tell you how sacred you are to me. By November 23rd, Alice and Chris make friends with a girl named Shelia, and she's the one that owns a lingerie store, and she invites them to a very elegant party, and she has a very nice apartment. They meet a bunch of 30-year-olds, and they're very interested in them and blending in with them. And they ended up lying to them, saying that they're over the age of 21 so that they could drink and smoke weed with them. And of course the girls get really drunk, they have sex with men, and they end up passing out at Shelia's apartment. After several nights of partying, the girls meet Shelia's boyfriend at the party, and he introduces the girls to heroin. They get high on heroin, and while they're high, both of the men sexually assault Alice and Chris while they're under the influence. So once they figure this out, they're very upset. They move away to another apartment in the meantime. Actually, the girls are so homesick they can no longer take it. So they eventually call their parents and get back home for Christmas. January 24th, Chris calls Alice one day and tells her to come over. And when she does come over, they smell marijuana and they both get pretty into it and start doing marijuana again. And so at this point, Alice is back to drugs and she loves the feeling. When I got there and smelled that incredible smell, I just laid there with her on the floor and smoking and cried. So that leads them to start selling again, and later they get caught and get put on probation for selling and having and using. March 5th, Alice runs away again. She takes a cab and she hitchhikes her way to Denver, Colorado while she's under the influence of drugs, and this time she's by herself. And she later states that she doesn't care where she is, she doesn't care what's happening, as long as she has enough money to stay stoned, that's all that matters to her. We've got enough money to keep us stoned for the next 2 weeks till forever, and that's all that matters. Then I talked to Alice, who I met just sitting stoned on a curb. She didn't know whether she was running away from something or running to something, but she admitted that deep in her heart she just wanted to go home. Eventually, Alice calls her parents and manages to get in contact with them, enough to the point where they come pick her up on April 6th, 1971. And at this point, she stopped doing drugs completely. She even started a new diary. April 12th, Alice ends up having a nervous breakdown while she's planning for her mother's birthday party, which is hard because we can't tell if it's a drug-induced panic attack, but we can infer that it is, being that she's been clean for so long, and when her body starts to notice that there's a difference in the pattern, she's going to feel some anxiety. One night, and here's a clip from the movie, Alice takes over Jan's job because she just never shows up. And then she does show up, and she's high on LSD, probably marijuana too, and she's all dirty and wet. She begins causing such a scene that Alice is forced to protect the baby and call Jan's parents. When they come, they basically beg Alice not to tell her parole officer. And now, after this incident, Jan starts bullying Alice pretty hard, and it distresses her mentally. But it's as well a reflection of what it really looks like when someone is high like this. And Alice would never want that, especially not because she's babysitting and she would never want the baby to get hurt. When Alice gets back to school, she's called in by the principal, and he ends up insulting her and telling her that she is a disgrace to American womanhood and that she's disgusting, and he knows everything she's been doing by selling drugs. And really this offends Alice, and she uses it as motivation to do as best as possible in school so she can impress and outsmart the principal. Now I'm certain if I were locked in a room with dope, I would only be disgusted. After school gets out, Miss Laverne breaks her leg, which is also the woman that Alice babysits for, so Alice takes the job and responsibility to look after her 4-month daughter while she's in the hospital. So while one day she's babysitting, she ends up putting the baby down for a nap, and she sees chocolate-covered peanuts. So she thinks that it's a present left by Miss Laverne to thank her for taking care of her child. So she takes them and ends up going into a very, what people would call a very bad trip. She ends up scratching herself, banging her head into the wall, hallucinating that she sees worms crawling on the ceiling and crawling on her body, up her legs, and on the baby's crib. She tries her best to rationalize it, so she locks herself in a closet, so she's only left to hurt herself, trying her best not to hurt the baby at all. Eventually, the other neighbors hear her screams, so they call the police, and Alice is sent to an emergency room, where she's treated for very serious injuries. We walked down a dark hallway, and I got a look at the kids. I can't get over what it feels like to be in a world of crazy people. Before Alice is discharged from the mental hospital, she meets several people that are very much like her. They're teenagers, but as well very young kids, and Alice is baffled by how young they are, and they're already dealing with such harsh things, such as sexual abuse, drug abuse, etc. And Alice learns a lot from this experience. Before she's discharged in September 20th is Alice's birthday, after her dad's, and Joel, the guy she's been dating, surprises her. She's very excited to be this, and they kiss. It sounds incredible that the first time I took drugs and the last time I took drugs was both given to me without my knowledge. She gets connected with an old group of friends that accept her into their friend group, and she's really excited to start school again. She actually updates us the last page of her diary, telling us that she's really happy to move on, and I'm actually going to read you the entire last entry. I woke up before the alarm went off. It's only 5 minutes after 5, and I doubt that anyone else in this block is up, but I'm wide awake and I can barely stand it. Frankly, I'm scared witless inside about going back to school. In my head, I know it's all going to be alright. I have Joelle and my super straight friends, and they'll help me. Besides, I'm much stronger than I used to be. I know I am. I used to think I would get another diary after you were filled, or even keep a diary for the rest of my life, but I don't think I will. Diaries are great when you're young. In fact, you saved my sanity 100,000 million times. But I think when a person gets older, she should be able to discuss her problems and thoughts with other people, instead of just another part of herself, as you have been to me. Don't you agree? I hope so. You are my dearest friend, and I shall thank you always for sharing my tears and heartaches, my struggles and strifes, and my joys and happiness. It's all good in its own special way, I guess. See ya, Alice. Okay, I said this at the beginning of the video and I'll say it again. If you don't want me to spoil the real ending of the story, please skip ahead. The subject of this book died 3 weeks after her decision not to keep another diary. Her parents came home from a movie and found her dead. They called the police and the hospital, but there was nothing anyone could do. Was it an accidental overdose, a permitted overdose? No one knows, and in some ways that question isn't important. What must be a concern is that she died and that she was only one of 1,000 of drug deaths that year. I stated at the beginning of this video essay, the book is almost 50 years old, but the lesson in it is still relevant to this day. I believe the moral of the story is to be careful what rabbit you chase down the hole. You may be running away from dangerous things you done when you were younger for the rest of your life, and sometimes it kills you. I really like how the author conveyed the element of foreshadowing because if you remember the beginning of the book, Alice said that she had a story that she didn't know exactly what, but she thought was really important to tell, and she was very much right. Alice's story is actually the inspiration of many recovery stories and a great inspiration. Go Ask Alice has a large influence from the Alice in Wonderland series, very much because of course, the name of Alice comes from the main character Alice, but as well as a small girl in a very large, scary, dark place of drug use. Of course, also, the title is from the song Go Ask Alice, White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. Nothing will ever make us complete except ourselves. If we have problems, we have to communicate them in a right way, whether that's keeping a diary to talk to yourself about it or talking to a trusted friend or adult will make us life easier to manage. So if you or a loved one is suffering from any form of addiction, please don't hesitate to contact the resources below that are in my description box. And I really hope that you enjoyed my video essay. And also tell me your opinions on this because I may be doing more video essays about books more often. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed my video.